I remember the sound of the monitor, that steady, cold. My body was weak. Every breath felt like fire in my chest. Tubes ran through my arms, machines hummed beside me, and all I could think was, where is she? The woman I had shared my life with, gone. My wife left me dying in that hospital room. She said she couldn't do this, then walked away, while I still couldn't even lift my hand to stop her. The doctors said I was lucky to survive, but at that moment, I didn't feel lucky. I felt abandoned, worthless, forgotten. I kept staring at the empty chair beside my bed, the one she used to sit in. She never came back. The nurses stopped asking if I had family visiting. I stopped hoping someone would walk through that door. The silence became louder than the heart monitor. What my wife didn't know was that hours before my heart attack, I had just inherited $16 million. A fortune left to me by my late uncle, a man I barely knew, but who somehow believed in me more than anyone else ever had. The lawyer had called that morning, his voice calm but serious. "Congratulations, Mr. Coleman. You're now the sole heir of his estate. I hadn't told Claire yet. I wanted it to be a surprise. I imagined her face lighting up when I'd say, 'We're free, honey. We can finally start the life we always dreamed of, but fate has a strange way of testing people.' Before she could know about the inheritance, my body gave up on me. Stress, exhaustion, maybe destiny. I don't know. All I remember is collapsing, her scream echoing through the room, and then nothing. When I woke up days later, my world was empty. Claire was gone. The love of my life had disappeared when I needed her most. The nurse told me, she said she couldn't bear to see you like this. And that was it. She left me there, broken, helpless, unaware that her husband had just become a millionaire. 8 months later, when she finally found out the truth, she came back. But when she saw who opened the door with me, her face froze in shock. My name is Michael Coleman, and 8 months ago, I was 48, living an ordinary life in Charlotte, North Carolina. I wasn't rich, but I had what I thought mattered: a steady job as a financial consultant, a small house in the suburbs, and a wife I believed loved me for who I was. Claire, my wife, was 42, smart, beautiful, and ambitious. We met when I was struggling to build my career, and she stood by me through years of small paychecks and big dreams. At least that's what I used to believe. We'd been married for 12 years. Our weekends were quiet: coffee on the porch, grocery trips, Sunday drives around Lake Norman. She used to say, "I don't need luxury, Michael. I just need peace." I held on to those words like a promise. I thought I'd found the one woman who cared more about love than money. But people change when life starts testing them, and money reveals who they really are. The morning everything changed, I received a call from a law firm in New York. The man introduced himself as Jonathan Reeves, my late uncle's attorney. I hadn't seen my Uncle Harold in over a decade. We'd lost touch after my father passed away. But Harold had no children, and apparently, I was his only heir. Jonathan's words echoed in my head like a dream. "Mr. Coleman, your uncle left you an estate valued at $16 million. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt unreal. I didn't tell Claire right away. I wanted to see her smile, that pure, genuine smile she used to have when she believed in us. I thought maybe, just maybe, this money could bring back the spark between us. That night, I came home with 2 takeout boxes from her favorite restaurant, Luna's Italian Bistro, and told her I had something to share. She laughed, thinking it was about work, until I grabbed my chest mid-sentence. The pain hit like lightning, sharp, crushing, endless. My vision blurred as I fell to my knees. I remember her scream, high-pitched, terrified. "Michael! Michael, stay with me." I tried to speak, but all I could whisper was, "Call. Help." The next thing I knew, paramedics were lifting me, the sirens screaming through the night, my consciousness fading with every heartbeat. The world went dark. When I woke up, I was in a sterile white room that smelled like antiseptic and sadness. My body felt heavy, my chest covered in bandages. A nurse leaned over me, whispering, "Mr. Coleman, you're in the ICU. You had a major heart attack." My lips were dry, but I managed to ask, "Where's my wife?" The nurse hesitated before saying, "She was here earlier, but she left. She said she couldn't stay." That's when I realized something inside me had broken, and it wasn't just my heart. The next few days were a blur of pain, sleepless nights, and unanswered calls. I left her messages, desperate ones. "Claire, please, I need you." Nothing. She didn't visit, she didn't text, she didn't even ask how I was. My best friend Ethan, who worked at the same firm, stopped by once with flowers and said gently, "Mike, she told everyone you might not make it. She said she needed time. I was fighting for my life while she was fighting to erase me." Weeks passed, and my hospital room became my prison. Every beep of the monitor reminded me that I was alive, but barely living. I watched couples holding hands in the hallway, families bringing balloons and food. No one came for me. The doctors told me recovery would be slow, 6 to 8 months before I could return to normal life. I wanted to believe I had something to live for, but the truth was, I didn't know anymore. One night, while staring at the ceiling, I heard the nurse humming softly as she changed my IV. "You've been through a lot, Mr. Coleman," she said kindly, "but don't lose hope. Some people walk away because they're afraid. Others stay because they care." Her words stayed with me. Maybe that's when I began to realize life was giving me a second chance. I just didn't know what for yet. 3 months into recovery, my world still felt small. White walls, pill bottles, and the faint smell of disinfectant. I had moved from the ICU to a small rehabilitation center on the edge of Lakewood, just outside Charlotte. Days blended into nights, marked only by the sound of nurses' shoes and the slow rhythm of my own heartbeat. That's when I met Anna, the sister of my best friend, Ethan. She was 29, a physical therapist who volunteered twice a week. I didn't know it then, but she would become the light that pulled me back to life. Ethan had told her about me, about the man who lost everything overnight. She walked into my room one afternoon, holding a small tray with coffee, and said, "You look like someone who misses real caffeine." I managed a weak smile, the first one in months. From that day on, she visited after her shift, sometimes just to talk, sometimes to make sure I'd eaten. She didn't treat me like a patient. She treated me like a person still worth something. There was something grounding about Anna. She didn't ask about Claire or about the accident or about the money I never mentioned. She just asked about me, what music I liked, what I used to do on weekends, how I felt waking up each morning. Slowly, I started walking again. My hands stopped shaking. She'd tease me, saying, "See? You're stronger than you think." And for the first time, I started to believe it. One afternoon, she found me staring out the window, watching a couple walk by holding hands. "You miss her, don't you?" she asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. "Then let me give you some advice," she said. Don't chase someone who left you in your worst moment. Let them watch you rebuild without them. Her words hit harder than any medicine. That night, I deleted the last message I ever sent to Claire. It felt like closing a door. As my strength returned, I started helping around the facility, fixing computers, organizing files, even giving advice to other patients about finances. The staff began to call me Professor Mike. I laughed more, slept better, and even joined Anna for walks by the lake. People said we looked good together, but I didn't think of her that way. Not yet. She was hope, and hope is fragile when you've been broken. 6 months later, I was discharged. Anna drove me home. The house felt cold, empty, and filled with ghosts of a past life. "You should paint this place," she said, walking through the hallway. "Start fresh." She smiled, leaving a small note on the counter before heading out. It read, "Don't let your scars define you. Let them remind you that you survived." I stood there holding that note for a long time. Somehow, it felt like the beginning of something new. By the end of that year, I was back on my feet, healthier, calmer, and with a clear perspective on life. I'd moved most of my late uncle's inheritance into investments and set up a foundation in his name. The old me, the man who begged for love, was gone. But destiny wasn't finished with me yet, because 8 months after my heart attack, the past came knocking. Literally, it happened on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I was at my office downtown, reviewing paperwork for the foundation, when Ethan called me out of nowhere. His tone was hesitant, almost nervous. "Mike, I ran into Claire today," he said slowly. My grip on the phone tightened. She looked shocked. She said she thought you were gone." I leaned back in my chair, a dry laugh escaping my throat. "Gone? That's one way to put it." He paused. "She doesn't know about the inheritance, does she?" I hesitated, realizing how the puzzle pieces were about to align in the worst possible way. 2 days later, I found out how she learned the truth. A mutual acquaintance, one of Ethan's colleagues, had mentioned the charity gala I hosted the previous month. Photos were online, me standing beside a large donation check, smiling, healthy, very much alive. And there, in the caption, the words, "Michael Coleman, founder of the Harold Coleman Foundation, established from his late uncle's $16 million estate." That was all it took. By Sunday morning, I received a message from an unknown number. "Michael, it's me. Can we talk?" "Please," I didn't reply. But she didn't stop. Dozens of messages followed over the next week, long, emotional, and perfectly crafted. I was scared. I thought I'd lost you forever. I made a mistake walking away. I wasn't strong enough then, but I am now. The kind of words that might have melted me months ago. But now they only sounded hollow, because I knew what they were really about. Not love, not guilt, but greed dressed as forgiveness. 8 months earlier, Claire couldn't stand the sight of me when I was weak. Now she couldn't stand the idea of me living without her when I was rich. Still, curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see her face, to hear her voice again, to see if even a fraction of it was real. So I agreed to meet. "Come by the house next Friday," I texted. "We can talk." My heart didn't race like before. It was calm, cold, ready. Friday arrived. It was cloudy, a storm brewing over Charlotte, the kind of sky that feels like a warning. I had spent the morning with Anna, who was now officially working as my personal therapist and consultant for the foundation. She insisted on helping me tidy the house. "You seem distracted," she said, as we arranged some books on the shelf. Just thinking about old ghosts, I answered. She smiled gently. Then let's make sure they stay ghosts. At exactly 4 p.m., the doorbell rang. My hands didn't tremble this time. When I opened the door, there she was, Claire, perfectly dressed, her hair styled, eyes glistening with practiced tears. For a moment, she just stared at me, frozen. "Michael," she whispered. I can't believe it's really you." I nodded calmly. "I survived, Claire." The silence that followed was thick enough to suffocate. She stepped closer, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "You look good. I'm so happy you're okay." Her voice cracked just enough to sound believable. I stepped aside. "Come in." She walked through the doorway slowly, her eyes darting around the renovated living room. Everything was new. Modern furniture, soft lighting, the quiet elegance of wealth. I could see it in her gaze, the calculation behind every blink. "You've done well," she said softly. I smiled, almost amused. "Yeah, life's been kind." She sat down on the couch, crossing her legs, the same way she used to when she wanted something. "I made mistakes, Michael. I was scared. Seeing you in that hospital bed, I didn't know how to handle it. I just listened, letting her rehearse her script. Her story spilled out, filled with regret and nostalgia. She talked about missing me, about sleepless nights, about praying for forgiveness. But her eyes kept wandering, to the watch on my wrist, the art on the wall, the photo of me shaking hands with donors. She wasn't here for closure. She was here for opportunity. And as I watched her, I realized this was my chance for justice. Not revenge, just truth. Claire sat there pretending to be fragile, her hands trembling just enough to seem sincere. "I still remember your last words before you collapsed," she whispered, tears glistening. "You said you loved me, and I ran away. I hate myself for that, Michael." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face, not the words. "You left me when I was fighting for my life," I said quietly. "Do you remember what you told the nurse that day?" Her eyes flickered, unsure. "You said, 'I can't do this,' and you never came back." She looked down, feigning shame. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Her voice cracked perfectly, rehearsed like a line from a movie. "Scared?" I repeated. "You blocked my number, Claire. You told our friends I was as good as gone." Her expression hardened for a moment, the mask slipping before she quickly smiled again. "I didn't handle it well, but I'm here now. That has to mean something, doesn't it?" Her hand reached for mine. I didn't move. "8 months ago," I said slowly, "you left me with nothing but a broken heart. What you didn't know is that just hours before that heart attack, I had inherited $16 million. Her eyes widened, confusion melting into disbelief. "What?" she gasped. I stood up, pacing slowly, my tone calm. "My uncle passed away that morning. His attorney called me. I didn't even get the chance to tell you before my heart gave out." I paused, turning to face her. "Funny thing, right? The man you abandoned was already a millionaire." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then, as if on cue, she tried to recover. "Michael, I didn't know. If I had—" I cut her off sharply. "If you had known what? You would have stayed?" The silence that followed was deafening. She stared at me, her act collapsing. I saw the realization hit her, that every word she said, every tear she forced, had been useless. I leaned closer, voice steady and cold. You didn't lose me when I almost died, Claire. You lost me when you walked away. Just then, the front door opened. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Claire turned, confused. "Who's that?" she asked. I didn't answer. A moment later, Anna stepped into the room, holding a grocery bag, her smile soft and genuine. "Hey, Michael, I picked up dinner." "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." The color drained from Claire's face as recognition hit her. "You," she stammered. Anna's calm eyes met hers. "Hi, Claire." It's been a while. Silence filled the room like a slow explosion. Claire's lips trembled. "You two?" she managed to say. I nodded, gently taking Anna's hand. She was there when no one else was. She helped me walk again. She helped me live again. Anna squeezed my hand, her expression kind, not cruel. "I didn't replace you, Claire," I said softly. "You left an empty space." She just helped me find myself in it. Claire's knees weakened as she tried to smile through the humiliation. I didn't mean to hurt you, Michael." I nodded calmly. "I know. You meant to help yourself." For a moment, no one spoke. The rain began tapping against the window, the sound filling the silence that words couldn't. Claire stood, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. "So this is it?" she asked, voice trembling. "After everything we had?" I looked at her, not with anger, not with love, but with clarity. "No, Claire. This is what you had. What we had died the night you left me alone in that hospital bed." She wiped her face and turned toward the door. "Goodbye, Michael." "Goodbye," I replied. It wasn't bitter. It was peaceful. When the door closed, Anna walked over quietly. "Are you okay?" she asked. I exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, I think I am. She smiled and leaned her head against my shoulder. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, a storm passing through, cleansing everything in its path. I looked at her, at the life I'd built from the ashes, and realized something profound. The people who truly care don't need your wealth or your perfection. They need your truth. I turned back to the window, watching the rain wash over the street. "Some people only come back when they think you're worth something," I said softly. "But the real ones, they never leave when you have nothing." Anna smiled, slipping her hand into mine. The world outside was dark, but for the first time in a long time, I saw light again. And this time, it wasn't from the fortune I inherited, but from the love I finally found. It's strange how life works. One moment, you're fighting for breath in a hospital bed, thinking the world has forgotten you. The next, you're standing tall, stronger than ever, realizing that every heartbreak was just a step toward freedom. I lost everything the night Claire left me, but that loss became my greatest gift, because it forced me to see who truly cared and who only stayed for the comfort, not the connection. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: love tested by pain is the only love that lasts. The people who stay when you have nothing are the ones you should build your world around. Money can rebuild a house, but it can't rebuild trust. And forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean welcoming someone back. Sometimes it means letting them go, wishing them peace, and finally closing that door for good. And if you thought this story was powerful, you'll want to see what happened in the one before it. My wife served me divorce papers on my birthday, calling me a failure. But what she didn't know was that I had just inherited $20 million. When I handed her the document she didn't expect, her face froze in pure disbelief. Check out this true story by clicking on the video to the left of the screen.